Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Heartland Mom. I'm Marie Brio.
And I'm Heidi Henry coming to you from three separate studios at the edge of the Great Red Divide. You can find us at heartlandmamas.com, on the Demcast network, and anywhere you get your podcasts, and YouTube. So, Murray, why don't you introduce our guests?
Today, we have the amazing Mr. Marc Sims. Marc is a resident of Chicago, and he was a 25-year public access broadcaster. And now he has this fantastic podcast called Just a Few Questions. Just a Few Questions with Marc Sims. Marc, thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm on.
Yeah.
People back at home, you should have saw we spent almost an hour trying to put this together because I'm at the age I don't want to learn nothing new. It was incredible. It was unbelievable. Well, we did it. We did it.
Yay.
Thank you, ladies, for having me on your show. This is the first time I've ever done one of these things. It's kind of bizarre.
When the pandemic hit, Marc, we had to figure out how to do this, and since Heartland Mamas is very conversational, we wanted to see the faces of the people we were talking to, So this is what we came up with.
Gave us a chance for when we get back in the studio together to bring in voices from outside, which is something we've been working on, and the pandemic just kind of made us nudge along to do that.
Yeah, we used to travel.
I just have to remember not to look at my little camera, not you.
Yeah.
And I got Murray over here.
I always look at the person. I never look at my camera. I always look at you.
Well, it just like here, Marc, you're next to me to my right, and Murray's down below, but
Murray's over there.
Yeah,
she's right over there.
Yeah.
But thanks, ladies. All jokes aside, I can't thank you enough.
Oh, well, we're so glad to have you, and
we're glad to have you.
We met through Ben Jarosky through his show, and even though I don't think we were on at the same time, it's like we meet the most amazing people through his show. So the things I wanted to ask you is, you live in the big city. We both of us live in rural Illinois. How is the pandemic being managed in Chicago? How is it going there? How has it impacted your life? Just people are curious how other people are coping with it.
Heidi and Murray, I live in the hood, but I'm not of the hood. I'm not hating, because when they had the drama, it's just about a mile. All the stores not far from me, near the Dan Ryan Expressway, were just trash.
No kidding.
And you came out. It was a hot mess. When I saw this stuff, when I saw the looting going on Facebook Live, people just had their phones and whatnot doing the Facebook Live, and it was unreal. Now, don't get me wrong. Now, if I was in my 20s or a teenager, I would be looting. I would tear up the place that they're doing it. It was just amazing seeing the looting, because we haven't seen this type of drama. I was probably 5 or 6 years old in '68. Yeah. When they had the riot back in the day, so I was too little to remember.
Yeah.
Okay, and so, but this country hasn't seen this kind of drama in 50 years or 60 years, whatever, and over 50 years, and it's amazing. And then when you come out the next day, you see all the stores trashed, and the next day they boarded up. I went to the grocery store this morning, and it's still boarded up.
Yeah. You
can go into the store, but the boards are still up. The Walmart not far from my house is still boarded up. It's unbelievable. And so what?
How long has that been now that it's still boarded up?
About 2 weeks? What? I don't know, a week or two? I don't know. I don't keep up. This whole year has been like, it's like 6 months, and it's like,
I know.
Hell when you go out.
6 months, and it's been a lifetime.
We have another 6 months of this. And then, of course,
have you heard about solar storms? Giant viruses? I could go on and tell you what's coming in the next 2 weeks.
With the aliens. But the aliens are coming later this year.
Dude, I am 100% convinced that there are freaking aliens. And actually, there are two energies, not necessarily good and bad, because we assign arbitrary values, but two opposing energies that are squishing this galaxy that we call the Milky Way. And we happen to be in the middle, and it's affecting people differently. So those people, it's taking people to extremes because of the energy. It's aliens. I'm sure. It's freaking aliens.
I can't argue with you.
I know. It's just as damn logical as some of the other shit out there. So.
It's been, aliens. The last 3.5 years has been and especially the last 6
girl.
months, has been just so bizarre. Every morning I wake up and think, well, what the hell happened overnight? So.
Every morning I wake up and say, what fresh hell have I awoken to?
Oh my gosh.
And of course, when you go downtown, you've been downtown a few times. Downtown was like, was it apocalyptic, dystopian? With the city downtown boarded up. It's you never seen anything like it. It's just too bizarre. And like I said, I'm glad I didn't go down. I didn't participate in any of the marches because I'm at the age I'm not gonna march. I'm not gonna riot. And I'm just saying I'm
you didn't riot.
Armchair activist.
Yeah.
I do my activism at home, right here on the computer.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but the people who protest, I get it. I get it. My whole thing is that hopefully they understand at some point the protests have to end, and you have to do other things to let the officials know how you feel.
So, we have to take this momentum and move it into tangible, concrete action. And if we don't, we've lost an opportunity. I mean, look at how many times we've had some upheaval in this country, and not necessarily the whole nation, but geographically, and how there's a momentum and a push, and then it fizzles out. Friggin' look at Stoneman Douglas. Go all the way back to Sandy Hook, to Columbine. If we do not force that change, if we do not keep up the pressure, it will go back to the way that it is, and we can't allow that. I love seeing protests every day in cities across the country, because it's finally saying, listen, legislators, you better wake up and realize that this isn't going to be tolerated anymore. And we have to do it.
But the difference between a protest or a civil action is different than looting and rioting. And I think that having the visibility of, Murray and I have both attended rallies and marches and walks for peace and displays of First Amendment rights. Not looting, not violence, nothing like that, no vandalism out in our areas. And it's for a long-term activist like me, for social justice, for equality, I'm so glad to see more people, because sometimes it's just me out there protesting. I can't tell you how many times it's been just me. And it's exhausting. It's exhausting, and it's so horrible that we had to have another man die among millions of men murdered.
Women.
And women, yeah. I was going to add that. And children. And it had to take another horrific death. Thank God for cell phones, because somebody caught those moments. I'm tired, Mark, and we have to change. You and I were talking about Jim Rohn. In order for things to change, you have to change. In order for things to get better, we have to get better. And I look at this as we have momentum. The public displays of First Amendment rights are so important. We have to keep that pressure up. It's not going to happen under this president. I have a lot of faith in the next president of making this finally. I don't know.
Beginning to address the issue instead of
hiding it. Addressing the damn issue.
Addressing the issue, right?
We are still stuck in this asinine colonialism that has corrupted and harmed our very civilization as a whole, as a planet, as a people. And we've got to get it through our heads that this is the time for change, and we cannot let up. And you know what? As far as the rioting and the looting, originally I think it was organic, and then it manifested into people being opportunists and bringing in U-Hauls and stuff. Like that makes sense. But you know what? At some point I said to somebody, you got to say it loud enough for people to hear. And sometimes it takes vandalism, rioting, to get somebody to go, oh my God, there's a problem. You think? So anyway, Mark, we invited you on the show not so I could go on one of my rants on social justice.
I'm glad you said that, Heidi, because I was going to go, all right, girl, this is not the Heidi show today.
I know.
No. It has to be said. I was listening to because of Benny J, we know each other, right? Well, not vicariously through the internet, through the electronics here. But I would listen to another radio station. I'm not going to listen. I'm not going to tell you the numbers. And they were saying that, wow, with all this rioting and people are against the police, that means some people may not want to be the police officer. And what I'm trying to say, though, is that I understand we're about, I don't know, let's, for the sake of argument, 30, 40, 50 miles apart right now.
Right.
It's a much different world where you are versus where I am. But sometimes the world's change right like a block. When I was a child, I like telling folks, when I was a child, back in the 70s, whatever, the racial dividing line was Damon Avenue, near where I live. Damon Avenue, it went like that.
Yep.
It went from white to black, whatever.
Redlining.
We were still calling ourselves black back then because before it was Negroes, and now you know how it is. People. No, I say that because some people don't know our story, African Americans. They really don't.
Well, share some of that because
share it.
Oh no, well, what I'm saying, the racial line was Damon when I was a kid, right over here, not far from me. And of course, the demographics has changed so much since I was a child. The people used to live over there. No, it's like the African American community where I live now. It's not the same it was when I was a child. A lot of people have moved away. A lot of people have passed away. It happens. Neighborhoods change and demographic change. And I say that because to do a little brief history, I was doing some kind of research, if you want to call it that, about the Electoral College. And a lot of the Electoral College goes back to how they set up Electoral College. Goes back to the slaves and slavery.
Yes, exactly.
A lot of people don't know it. I wasn't taught that in school. They had to learn it on the internet like anything else.
I learned that in school.
Oh, people don't understand. You had black slaves from Africa, and then of course they were slaves for 200 some years, and they had what's not a passation, discrimination and de facto, slavery. Well, they had all this for another 100 years. But people forget who we are. We are African, but 80% of us have some sort of white bloodline.
Yeah.
When you look at Barack Obama's daughters, you can't tell that one of their grandmothers is a white woman from Kansas. So race is a social construct. Yes. You should know this, okay? But we understand the social construct is to, the people in line in certain categories and caste systems. And here we are. So when I hear people say slavery, it was a long time ago. Oh no, it wasn't that long. It wasn't that long ago.
We're still living it.
And we wrestle with it as a people because African Americans, we were Negroes, we were colored, we were black when I was in grammar school, high school. Now we African Americans, and I used to hear older people say, "I don't want to say black, I like Negro. I don't want to say Negro, I like colored. I don't like this." I hear people say right now, "I don't like African American, I like black." That's what I'm used to. Mm-hmm. And they have this whole ADOS movement going on because we are descendants of slaves. So people say we're really ADOS. We're descendants of slaves. We're not Caribbean. We're not African from Nigeria. So like Kamala Harris may be the Joe Biden's pick for vice president, but she's not a descendant of the slaves. Not that it matters. Barack Obama wasn't a descendant of the slaves.
Right.
I'm just saying it's confusing. It's complicated.
We all have to
be brought up to speed to understand who's who and what's what and how this whole system works. Because most Americans don't. And the only reason we have a lot of this protesting now, some cities and whatnot, because the demographics has changed so much in this country, and it's going to continue to change.
Yes.
And it's scaring the hell out of people. And I sort of understand why it's scaring the hell out of them. It's understandable.
Mark, you just made a really good comment.
Yes.
You just said, when you were talking about the different terms, the social construct that we define how we describe ourselves. And even in the Black community, there is such a large differentiation about what is okay, what is not okay. We find that across all boards, but I think we also evolve. And when people hear something for the first time, they cling to it. So especially white people, they're like, "Oh, okay, then that's okay." And then someone says, "Oh, you can't say African American. You should be using the term Black." Then that takes some white people freak out level to, "Oh, am I going to get in trouble for saying the word Black?" Like, but what they don't understand is that just as in terminology evolved, so we evolve, which is what you just mentioned. Just like it started off as justice for George, but really, as the movement has progressed, we're starting to address the systemic issues that are causing these problems.
Right.
So it moved from justice for George to, hey, police reform now. Defund the police. Figure something else out because far too many people are dying. So I guess I think in my thing, I think you're totally right that it's okay to be confused in this changing, evolving space.
And you have to, we all have to understand what's going on, and it is confusing. Like I would see people, which I would call East Indian. I know you don't. That's what they call it. So I hear them say, "I'm South Asian." No, you Indian from India, right? No, I'm South Asian. So that's not when I think of Asian. I think of Chinese people. You know what I'm saying?
And
So
now India technically falls under what they call Pan-Asia. So they call it the Pan-Asian community. Anyone who is of that region, who's descended from that region, is Pan-Asian, which, that's a huge region.
I
know.
And all those terms go back to colonialism. That's not what those people that lived there called themselves originally, right? It's just like my family came over from Sweden, and which we found out because we thought we were Norwegian, and Germany and England. But I don't have to identify myself as that, right? So I lost my train of thought here. But what I'm saying is that those are colonialism terms for other parts of the world that wasn't Europe. Just saying.
It's all understandable because if they teach these things in school, I don't know. You probably have to go to a really good college to talk about what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And you don't get it in most high schools and grammar schools. I get it because there's a bunch of books I'm supposed to read, but I may not get to, like how the Irish became white. You know what I'm saying? You had the Germany. Yes. You had the different white ethnics, European ethnics, and they all became under the umbrella white.
Right.
I think yep. I'm using, and if I'm wrong, people at home, I'm wrong with some of these terms. You can send me an email at Marc Sims Chicago, whatever, Gmail. But the point is that the Hispanic term, you had, when I think Hispanic, I just say those are Mexicans, those are Puerto Ricans, those are Hondurans, those are Peruvians. But they use the term, which is a gringo term, I heard.
Yes.
Hispanic to cover everybody.
Well, so and then now the term is Latinx.
But that's
it's not Latina. It's Latinx.
Right. Latinx. I'm ignorant on this. Doesn't Latinx means all the people from Latin America?
Latinx? It means those of Latin descent. Yeah, Latin America, Spain, Cuba,
but Latin,
Central America.
Latin.
But when I was a kid, Roberto Clemente, I barely remember him as a kid playing baseball because he was killed. 1970, I remember he was killed because he didn't play craft. So I was wondering, Roberto Clemente, how this black guy speaking Spanish? Because I didn't understand it. I'm like 8 years old. You know what I'm saying?
Sosa.
So I didn't black guy speak Spanish, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know about the slavery and how people got to Puerto Rico. Didn't know, and a lot of people still don't know to this day.
Well,
we don't know, and
we don't know because history is. Marie and I have talked about this. History has been whitewashed for our protection.
All of us.
Well, not for our protection.
Well, no, I mean
our history has been whitewashed because it's easy.
Yeah.
The colonialism you just brought over colonialism, and it's the winners write history. That's one thing they teach you early on in school. Is history is written by the written by the winners.
But it's not.
So we created this mythology about the United States because it was so revolutionary in the world at the time, and so we all about freedom, and we create this narrative, and that's when we started building our education. Built this fake narrative in about I have kids, so I'm going through I have from 17 to 11-year-old, and as I'm watching their information come home in social sciences, as I'm watching history, as I'm watching this, I'm like, that's the answers that they give are so not right for the curriculum. It's mind blowing to me that we have done this in such a way. This is a hot button for me because the frustration is we don't know what happened, and it's not just what happened. Those of us who are interested in human nature, in history, maybe who had classes or an educational system that gave us this basis for a more broader basis, but it's also about having black and brown and every everything under the rainbow's voices represented. In literature, right? They go through junior high, high school, and college, up to college. I have yet to see a work studied in an honors class or a regular English class that was by a black author. Why is that?
Oh, that's terrible.
Why don't they study? Why don't we know
Marie,
the history? Why don't we have more? Yeah?
let Mark talk.
I just got all fired up, man.
No, because when you're not talking, I can see my screen is off. So and then I see it's back on. I got, hey, I'm ready to go. No, I understand because you have children. And it's tough because when I was raising my children, when they were being raised, I wanted them to go to an all-black African-American school. Me and the wife agreed on this because that's what we were comfortable with. We didn't want no integration for them when they went to school. No, none of it. Because we're already confused people, black folks, right? There's black folks who feel me, Marc Sims, is not black enough because I'm on the lighter side of the brown paper bag. And that's a whole story you can get into.
Yeah.
That's why, we're still arguing. Henry Louis Gates, Henry Louis Gates. You see him on Knowing Your Roots. He has the genealogy show.
Oh, I love him.
One thing I heard him on C-SPAN, believe me, he has his detractors.
I know, but
I just know that's.
I always feel like I learned something.
Obama has haters. That's all I'm saying. Everybody got the haters.
Oh yeah,
I in the airport next to the flag, right? But the point is that he said in his African American history class, students, if you remember one thing, African Americans, black people have been arguing about who's black and how to be black ever since we got here.
Mark,
and a lot of our issues are just that to this very. And I'm airing the dirty laundry that you're not supposed to do. But that racism is a big problem. And our own distrust of one another is a really big problem also. It's a huge problem.
It is a huge problem.
How do we fix it, Mark? How the fuck do we fix it?
You don't. You just work on it while you're living. That's all you can. And that's the whole thing is about divide and conquer. Divide and conquer is the oldest trick in the book. Yes. It works every time.
Yep.
Those people on the Peru side, they think they're better than people on the LaSalle side of the, LaSalle, Peru. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Right? You're on the other side of the tracks. The people up the hill, the people down the hill. Divide and conquer. It works. I get sucked in. It happens, okay? So divide and conquer is natural. The sociopaths and the psychopaths, they'll come up and they always come and divide and conquer people. Right. It happens every time. It's something we just have to work on. It's tough. And also racism, when people talk about racism is just unfairness. If I was in charge, why would I should be fair to you and your children? Because if I teach your children to compete with my children, your children can rule over my progeny for the next 100 years. Wow. You don't do that. Yeah. That sounds mean. If I was in charge, I try to keep the people down, right? Yeah. And keep them stupid. So we just have to understand Mark, as human beings.
Such a Republican. What? That was such a Republican-like statement. Kick them down, keep them down, keep them stupid.
I was saying, when my children left high school, it was time after being in the hood for whatever, in the old neighborhood, it was time for some diversity going from high school. Because I want them to have that African-American base, understand who they are. Because we do get confused. A lot of us, when we get integrated and assimilated, we do get confused. Because let's face it, once you start rising in the rarefied air, if you will, the white European world, you look down like, oh, I could never go back down with those people.
Absolutely.
No, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I imagine people in DuPage County probably look down on people in Will County, I imagine, right?
Absolutely, yep. And maybe it comes more to race, and that's something that I've really dug into psychologically. Ask Heidi, I'm always like, why did that happen? There has to be a reason. Find 32,000 reasons why it might have. But I think that it absolutely, it has to do with skin tone, but it also has to do, I think, with people's need to be superior. We look at everything from our perspective. So even animals, right? If you think back to the lions, the researchers who studied lions, it was all about the male commanding the pride and the female lions. And then 2 female researchers in the span of 10 years went and researched lions in their natural habitat for 5 years and 6 years, respectively. And what they found was it wasn't the male lion who controlled the pride. It was the pride who chose the male lion. And if they weren't happy, they would kick him out and assume a new male. It was the women that controlled it, but because everything we're taught is this male construct, this colonialism, this white overlord, that this is right. Nobody thought to look at it from another perspective. And once women went and examined it and started researching it, they're like, well, that's not what's going on here at all. So I think it's inherently human.
Yes. Say, I was going to make a horse analogy because wild horses, everybody puts it on the stallion, but it's the boss mare.
See?
Yeah.
So we have this perception that, and we assume that animals that we're superior to all the animals. They don't have higher functioning. They don't have thumbs. Look at, we build things. We're smarter. But what we're not looking at is they all have their own societies and are functioning in ways that we can't imagine and we can't even begin to understand until we drop our own bullshit that we've been drilled and trained to believe. Did we lose Mark?
Well, it's hard to. I was looking at the green light. Oh, it is tough. But I can't leave this podcast without one, because I'll do all the psychobabble from my mouth, but I have to give people something to think about it, later on today. All this protest and all this stuff, for me right now, I didn't have this agenda 10 years ago. I just did. Mm-hmm. I usually start listening to a progressive radio station, progressive people like yourself. So I'm for Medicare for all, or some form of universal health care.
Absolutely.
No one should go bankrupt or have huge medical bills in this
country. Or be beholden to a corporate overlord.
Of course. The other one is some form of universal basic income. I'm not saying everybody should get it. You can work with something. It's like these jobs have changed so much, and they've always changed.
Yes.
But even a person like me, yours truly, right? I'm almost unemployable on some level, right? So let's say you are unemployable. The jobs, some of these jobs are so technical. You have to have some form of post-secondary education. Right. Otherwise, forget about it.
Right.
So you may not be able to make enough money. So you need a little cash to keep it going. Mm-hmm. So some form of universal basic income has to be instituted in this country, which is nothing new because Richard Nixon talked about it in the 70s. So this is not a new idea.
Right.
The other one is I forgot the other one, but education innovation. That's what it was. You have still Murray has children in school, right? What they taught in school, forget about. I mean, it's insane. If you don't have a wonderful parent or parents that are really involved in your education, and if you're a smart kid, you can memorize everything, you'll be fine.
Right.
But if you're just a regular kid, like I was back in the day, forget about it. Mm-hmm. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So we need a new education for people who they're not going to get. Most people never get a 4-year degree,
right,
or a master's degree or doctorate degree.
Right.
So you do have to have some form of post high school education. But the main thing is that teaching people how to learn. It's like today we walk through. You show me how to use this platform, this video thing. You probably said, "Damn, Mark is so dumb. Why did he get that?"
Oh, not at all. Are you kidding? No.
But I'm saying though is that there's probably, and I've seen teachers years ago, and some probably had this same experience now when they had to go home with the technology.
Yeah.
There's probably teachers that never really fooled with the technology and say, "What? I gotta do what? I gotta do a video like Murray." And figure this out and talk to parents and talk to people on this. I got to put the camera on top of my. You know what I'm saying? We all have to be taught to learn how to learn because we all have to constantly learn something. I hate learning something new, but we have to. We have to learn something new all the time.
Every day.
We have to evolve.
Yeah.
This could be the next stage of evolution.
Instead
of it being at the precipice of extinction. Like they just recently found out that the dinosaurs, there was not a mass extinction episode. It went on for over 12 million years, and in that time, new species emerged. So we could be on the precipice of evolution, and I think we need to grow and change and reframe things.
I think that it's always going to be like that. I think we would be fools to think that we weren't constantly evolving. Right, and that there wasn't more to come. That this isn't it. Boy, I'd be so disappointed if this is it. So for not just for mankind, but for the Earth and all of us on this planet.
Lizard people, alien lizard people are coming. So. Tremors, they're in the ground.
There's a few human beings that are still living, and some of us maybe we remember when we were. Years ago, we were definitely an agrarian society.
Yes.
We went through an agrarian society, the industrial age, now this
Yep.
computer age, and now we're about to, with all this AI and these algorithms, we're about to jump to something. You can watch a TV show. They can tell you what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so we're moving. Where's my telephone? Did we have this 20 years ago?
No.
This thing, no. So you can imagine things are moving so fast, and it's almost moving too fast. But one thing we do have to worry on, we have all this technology. We have to work on each other as human beings. And for this country, people don't understand this country. We were the great superpower for a while there, but now China is their economy is about the same as ours. It's going to surpass us soon.
Right.
We're not going to be this world superpower
No.
for the next 20 years. It's not going to happen. The world has changed, so and the country's changed because the demographics has changed.
Right.
So I hate change. Who likes change? But you have to change. Or you have to embrace the change, or just go into your little enclave in Iowa or Idaho and just deal with it. Go to the head for the hills and deal with it, because I read something the other day, or I was looking at a video, and they were saying, like, I think in 2049, and they say about 70% of the country would just live in 15 states. In 2049, this is a prediction, okay? In 2049, 70% of the country would live in just 15 states. This is the people who know can kind of guess what's going to happen, but we regular people, we have no clue. So
was that a geographic reason or an environmental, or do you remember what this sounds totally interesting.
They didn't really talk about it.
Remember what?
No, they didn't really talk about it. I'll see. It was David Fromm. He was on a CBC out of Canada. I'll send you the link, okay? David Fromm on CBC.
Yeah.
But the point is that my dad came from Arkansas, moved to Chicago. He was part of the second Great Migration.
Mm-hmm.
So people they moved from the rural areas to the cities,
right,
to get jobs.
And now people are moving from the cities to the rural areas because of the pandemic.
It all depends.
And now,
like, you have a city like Chicago. Chicago should be okay because we have this fresh water here. People forget we have a lot of fresh water. It's very important.
Right.
So Chicago, it was going to be okay. But you could see people moving. They say, well, there's no job, no tech job or whatever in Chicago or Springfield. I'm gonna move to Texas. I'm gonna move to whatever, Georgia. So people are gonna move to where the jobs are. That's what I'm checking. People move to where the jobs are. There'll always be somebody in Iowa. There's always be somebody in Central Illinois. But most people are gonna go to where the jobs are. Because they say, like, there's more people, there's more jobs. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Anybody's been in New York, you say, why do people live in New York? Because there's jobs there. You know what I'm saying? Why people move to Dallas and Houston? Because there's jobs.
Right.
So people are gonna move to where the jobs are. So, where the growth is. Where there's growth, there'll be jobs. But we'll see what happens. If I stop eating processed foods, I could be around in 2062 and all that kind of stuff. 2052, you know what I'm saying? I'll be 90 in 2052, so I got to stop eating.
I'm going to be gone by then. I don't want to be around.
No. We're going to make sure we're going. But you know what? When you talk about technology, they have this CRISPR coming along. They say, half of all Americans don't live to be 80. I get that as of right now. But with all this CRISPR and all this technology, we're going to see more. We have it now. Octogenarians. I forgot what a 90-year-old is. We're going to see more 90-year-olds and more centenarians, whatever, 100-year-old. You're going to see some of that. So the future is bright on one level. Yeah. But it's not bright for those who don't have the education or the connections or a special skill. And you saw that in the looting. You see that in the protests. A lot of the protests is just it's just frustration.
Frustration, yes.
And I understand the frustration. I live in a house right now, because I've been here for a while, and the house is paid for, but I couldn't buy this house. I don't make enough money to buy this house. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is serious. Now this is partly my fault because I didn't upgrade my education level. Also, is that you no matter where you are, you have to figure out, how do I fit in? Do I stay as an adult in LaSalle County, or Warren County, or Knox County, or do I move to Tennessee? Do I move to Texas? Do I move to Chicago? Do I move to Minneapolis? And you got to figure out, how do I fit in? And if you have more education or more skills, even technical, plumber, electrician, you have a skilled education, you have a lot of options. When you don't, because I was on an NPR show years ago, I don't know the whole statistic, no background, but they said 50%, or almost half of all college graduates move away from their birthplace state by the age of 30.
Well, That was what was so alarming when Governor Rauner, our previous governor, did so much damage to higher education in Illinois. It caused a lot of people to go out of the state to get their education. Most people who leave the state for education don't come back. They don't come back. And right when he was doing that, my kids were in college. And they stayed in state to go, but one of them sure doesn't live by me. He lives out by the Quad Cities. But that's the problem, is you have to go to follow the jobs. You have to go to follow the opportunities. You have to follow the education to provide the opportunities. And that's going to take you somewhere. And you have to go, like you said, you have to go to where the jobs are, where you can be yourself. You have to stand in the place where you live, right? We have a congressman in Illinois that told me one time that he felt that all the small towns out in the boonies where I live should be raised, and people shouldn't live there anymore. They should go into the city to live and have this be more recreational ground or uninhabited ground.
Because it would reduce resources, and we would be able to take and not need infrastructure as much across.
Right. You just have a one road going through it, not a whole bunch of little roads going around it or bridges going over rivers and stuff. So that made sense. But for people like me I grew up in the far western suburbs, and I moved out here on purpose. Murray migrated back in to where more people live. I went where it was less people-y. So.
But it flips both ways. Some people are sort of it's all speculation that with this virus, you may not want to live in a congested city like Chicago.
Exactly.
It could flip. So it flips, and you have, I don't know where we're gonna get these hyperloops. They're supposed to be coming, right? And the theory about a hyperloop. Even if we had high-speed trains, you say, wow, I can live in Central Illinois. I can live out in Princeton, Illinois. Because a lot of people right now, they're at home doing what we're doing, working from home.
Right.
They're not going downtown. They're not going to a suburban office park. So things change all the time. So it's like I was telling somebody about, even Ben Jarofsky, our friend Benny J, in the Benny J podcast. I have to say Jarofsky. I can say it when I try. We always talk about the declining African American population in the city.
Right.
It's okay. My mother came from Detroit. My father came from the state of Arkansas. They moved here. People move and go. That, and I would say, and our population in Chicago is going to go down. It's okay. But how do we manage that decline? And how does the city make the town manageable? Because remember, 7 billion people on the planet Earth.
Right.
They're going to live somewhere. And if you have a decent immigration, you can bring people to a town or a city or a suburb. But how do you make the schools good and it's livable and blah, 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 blah. So and I always tell people, no matter what we do, what is that 10-year future?
Right.
Like I say, I would say mine is process food, trying to lay off a little bit, right? Well, what is that future? In 10 years, hopefully, I will be fully retired. You know what I'm saying? And the pandemic, I'm getting a taste of retirement. I'm at home during the pandemic, and I'm getting a taste what retirement feels like.
Yeah.
It feels pretty good. They're like, I ain't got no money. So, but what I'm saying is that's what a person or a town or region, how do we manage the growth? How do we manage the decline? Because you're going to see some decline in some areas. My children, I'm sorry, I'm babbling. My children went to small liberal arts colleges. And just like that institution, like a lot of institutions, they may go away. How do we keep this thing going? That's no matter who we are, what we're trying to do. How do we? It's like when I was at McDonald's as a teenager and a 20-year-old, they had a crazy, corny saying at McDonald's, and you probably heard it before. When you're green, you're growing. When you're ripe, you rot.
Yes.
You always try to be green, always try to be growing, and it's a challenge.
It is a challenge. Growth is, and at the age that you and I are at, Mark, you're a little bit younger than me. They expect us to stop growing, to stop learning things like Discord, to stop doing things like a podcast. And when you find that you keep exercising your mind and you keep working forward, you keep evolving your entire life, you keep growing. And I would like to stay evergreen.
it's going to be tough, but it's like, people probably think that, Mark, you're in your late 50s. Why are you doing a podcast that 5 people listen to? One, because it's creativity.
Yes.
People should have some type of outlet, some type of creative outlet, whatever it is. It's 900,000 podcasts. We don't need any more of those, per se. But I'm saying you have to keep it going, because between when I ended my TV show after 25 years, I didn't do anything for almost 2.5, 3 years. I was just like, oh, what do I do? I said, okay, I'll do the podcast, because you have to do something. I know you ever see older people who read a lot?
Yes.
The old school, they keep their mind, either they're reading, they're painting. I mean, there's nothing wrong with sitting around
Sudoku.
Right. I mean, you have to do whatever it is. Just pick something, because I don't care if only 100 people may see my podcast a month or whatever, but I feel I'm connecting. I had some sort of famous people on my show this week. You're going to be back. And it's really cool. It's really nice. And whether it's a podcast or something, you have to sit. I got my TV right here. That's nice, but something creative, something that's connecting, something that's fulfilling.
Right. It's so important. Well, Mark, we've loved having you on today. I think we went onto a bunch of different tangents. Not exactly.
You know what? I think we're gonna call these chat. We're gonna come up with a really cool name for it, because the same thing sort of happened with Neil and with our friends that we're not particularly interviewing. I think we need to have these little chats often.
Yeah. They're awesome.
People are wonderful, aren't they? If they sort of think alike, they're pretty cool. As long as they're reasonable. You could be a Trump supporter, as long as you're reasonable. I had Armstrong Williams on my show. Armstrong Williams is a conservative Republican from way back. We're the same age, and he came on the show.
Yeah.
And people said, "Why you have a Republican on your show?" It's a 5-minute conversation. It's okay. I mean, come on.
And you know what? It is not a bad idea. Although I don't know anybody who's I don't think I can. You could be a Republican, but if you support Trump, I'm not sure I can talk.
My thing is, as long as you're reasonable, because if you had a Trump supporter like out there in the Western Illinois where you are, you say, I vote for Trump because I'm afraid I'm losing my country,
right?
I'm losing my job. I can't handle this. I need somebody who's going to be comforting to me, let me know that I'm not. All those people of color is not going to take over my country and take over my town and run me in the ground. and if a person's honest about like that, I'm cool. I just know you need to stay over there and I stay over here. We cool. We see each other at the McDonald's or the Burger King. It's all right. We keep it. We keep it moving. It's all right. All right. I'm fine.
I think that fear is how we got elected, and I think that fear is why
the exploitation of that.
Well, yeah, but I think that people wanting some saneness and some comfort is how we ended up with Joe Biden as the standard bearer of the Democratic Party. People want some sanity again, and he is a safe choice because people feel like they already know him. And I'm okay with that. I mean, we, as progressives, not exactly where Murray and I were headed, but I think that comfort is why people chose him. That comforting, warm embrace, because God knows we need some empathy.
Also, Joe Biden was chosen because the people in the middle, or margins, middle, I don't know. The people in the middle are going to see the hard lefties are going to vote Democratic.
Right.
The hard righties are going to vote Republican. Right. It's the people in the middle that goes back and forth, back and forth. Those are the people who are going to have to say, okay, I voted for Trump last time. I tend to vote Republican. Joe is he's okay.
Joe's right down the middle.
To our country, we don't need no 4 years of this chaos.
Oh my God!
And I get, you're right, Mark, but that's what's really frustrating is that as a progressive, as someone who is farther left, which isn't even that freaking left anymore.
No.
Let's go back to the days of FDR, for Christ's sakes. That's not left. But as we have this middle group, I don't think there's as much about a middle group as we say there is. I don't believe there are as many people who are really in that, I might be Republican, I might be Democrat anymore. I think that has changed, except we fit that narrative. So anybody who's running is terrified of saying Medicare for all because they're afraid that that 5% that might vote Democratic but have been Republican, they're like, whoa, they don't want to alienate them. Yet you're assuming that the far lefts will go along any old time. And as we can see, the more and more primaries, you see a bigger push and bigger push. And it's because every time we go more to the center, what we're really doing is taking a step to the right.
Yep.
I just think that, I mean,
I agree. I agree with you, Murray.
People need to understand that.
I totally agree. The whole key, you've done elections, you've run for office. you know this thing much better than I do. The key is always turnout. It's always getting people. It's like I mean, I'm not trying to get the largest audience on my podcast. That's not the point. The point is that can I get the right people that I want to watch the show to come on board?
Yeah.
And so when you're let's say you're a political candidate, and I talk to a few people who are younger than me, and I say you're not going to win. They get mad at me when I say you're not going to win, because I've seen how this stuff usually works.
Oh yeah.
It's hard to get the people who never vote or rarely vote to come out. It's like if Joe Biden wants to win in November, you got to get those people in those swing states, those little 4 or 5 key states, who never come out, who rarely come out.
Well, I think.
And are we gonna get some? I mean, I guess because he is such a catastrophic clusterfuck, that may motivate people to come out. Those people who never come out. Mm-hmm. But if it's not a catastrophic clusterfuck, if their city's not being locked down, if their friends aren't dying, if they're not going to come out, and Joe isn't going to inspire anybody to want to come out and vote.
Well, but the inspiration is
to get rid of Trump.
We can't do 4 more
years. But that doesn't help down ballot.
Yeah. No, it's just like getting guests on the show, right? I know I send emails out, come on the show. People say, who is Marc Sims? I don't know you, right? I don't like you. Okay, so we can't get him on the show. But if Murray and Heidi says, Mark's a good guy, he's the man, get on the show, it's going to take you 5 minutes, phone call, do the show. They'll come on the show. It's like being an influencer. People make big money about it's not about Joe. It's like, come on out and vote. It's bigger than Joe.
It is.
Come on out and vote. So the key is always the influencers. Who's going to influence those non-voters to vote?
And I'm going to disagree with Murray. I think, we used to be able to, punch 21 and vote straight ticket. We can't do that anymore because the Republicans got too butthurt over it. But I think that it is going to help the down ballot. I think they're just going to go Democrat, 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 because they are so done with all of this. The people of Michigan are done with armed hairy bubbas taking over their state capital. The people of Wisconsin are done with people getting sick. When I talk to my friends in Wisconsin and they're having spikes all over the place because of what their Supreme Court did, they're like, we will never vote for anybody but a Democrat again, So
now's the perfect time to go farther left. Stop pandering to the 5% of morons in the middle that are never going to support your agendas.
Oh, you like I said, like in Milwaukee, you go get the people who rarely vote. And usually they'll tend to be to the left anyway. And they say, well, most people, they say, well, if I'm going to vote, because I think I see the world from the south side of Chicago, from the far south side of Chicago. People say, why should I vote? I don't get an instant, tangible benefit.
Right.
I may get called in for jury duty. I don't want to be called in for jury duty.
Yeah, and you can let them know that it's not tied to that.
Well, I don't get an instant, tangible benefit. What do I get? You can give me a chicken? You can give me a job? Why should I vote?
Yeah.
Murray or Heidi. I don't know them. They don't give me something.
Yeah, you're right.
Not every candidate is Willie Wilson.
Don't get me started. I mean, I respect Willie Wilson, but don't get me started.
I do. But passing out $100 bills is kind of crossing a line there.
But see, he does it because he understands people want an instant, tangible benefit.
I so get that.
We're philosophizing. Most people work paycheck to paycheck. They don't want no philosophy.
Right.
They want some money.
Right.
It's like looting. You would say,
it's a good point.
I wouldn't normally steal something, but the store is wide open. Let me go in and loot because it's there. You know what I'm saying?
I know.
Right? I would never loot.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm too old for that. Somebody'd have to carry that home. That would be me. I wouldn't want to, So.
And and Murray looting, I'll be like, wow.
I'm sorry, I don't know if it was an ice cream store or.
But I'd only want a scoop.
I might have to.
Yeah.
Right,
I don't know.
I'd only want one
scoop. Or a cannabis dispensary. I might also have to loot.
You know what's boarded up still by me is the cannabis dispensary.
So is mine. My dispensary I had to change because it's still down from 2.5 weeks ago.
Oh, it's open. You just got to enter through the plywood door.
Edibles, huh? You doing them edibles?
Oh, I love my cannabis. I have been a cannabis connoisseur for many years, my friend.
She is.
It is a good thing.
I learned something new today.
What's that?
The weed over here. The square over here. Got a weed head looking at it.
She's a weed eater.
I'm
sorry I babble too much. Once you get me talking, I get to babbling.
No, that's fine.
We love having you,
love
Mark.
it.
You're great. I like having conversations that are frank. In real life, your conversations don't go according to plan. They bounce. You exchange ideas, and that's kind of a part of what we do, is to give a voice, to amplify, to let those ideas be exchanged, and maybe someone will pick something up.
And I can't leave this podcast, this show, by telling people who watch the show, share it with someone.
Yeah.
I mean, I sometimes have to beg my guests, share the damn show, right?
Hey,
because it's like I meant to say that on Benny J's show. It's that I see you on Twitter, I see something. It only takes a second for me to copy or just click the share button.
Right. And
to share it.
We will put the links to your show, Mark, on our page when we send this out.
Not your part, but other people watching, share this wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes. Share, like.
Share it. Share the love.
Like Mark.
Yeah.
Like a conversation. Just a few questions. I was trying to think about the name of it. Just a few questions.
People may never see me in person, but they'll see me vicariously through this. Or there's sometime when I was on public access, you'll see somebody and they're like, they'll see you at this. You got this podcast. I saw you. You over there in the barn. I saw you.
Happens to Heidi and I all the time.
I have people that recognize me with my mask on, but of course I have a couple of different masks that say things on them. One says "Thank you, JB," which the hairy bubbas just hate that one. And then
6 degrees of separation is true. So we have to share these videos with other people.
Right.
And it takes time. Some people had to see Heartland Mamas for 6 months before they actually click the damn thing.
I know.
So it takes time.
So anyway, we better get wrapped up here, Mark, but we'd like to have you back on again.
On, Mark.
Yeah.
Please come on our show again. Tell everybody again. Podcast, website.
Yeah,
Our podcast?
Yeah, yours.
Yep.
No, type my name in. MarCsims. MarCsims. I just pop right up.
Perfect. Well, we will make sure that we share that. Thank you for coming on, and we would love to have you on again.
So find
us. All right,
it.
folks. Like Mark just said, like, subscribe, share. Share, for goodness sakes. Tune in for good conversation.
Yeah. Heartland Mamas, MAMAS.com. See you later, everybody. Bye.
Bye.